welcome to the next episode in our Dummies Guide to Power Automate. In this video, we're going to be covering the triggers and actions that you can use to create your own flows. Triggers are how you will start your flows, whereas actions are how you add the dynamic content and allows you to create any wide variety of flows. First thing you want to do is make your way to the make.powerautomate.com website mentioned in the previous video and make your way to the Create tab. We will be covering the three types of flows. However, we'll be doing most of our work inside of the instant cloud flow, which we will move to later. Automated cloud flows are flows which are triggered by outside events. For example, when an item is added to SharePoint or OneDrive, when an email is received or a Teams message is posted. You can also search dynamically for specific triggers if you have one that you know of. For example, when a row is added. And you can see here, we will see the Microsoft Dataverse when a row is added, modified, or deleted action. You can also name your flow up here, for example, test automated flow. And then once you're happy, you can hit create, and this will bring you to the flow editing screen. Alternatively, you can skip and jump straight into the flow, allowing you to name and create a trigger for your flow at a later date. Next, we will be looking at the scheduled flow. A scheduled flow is a flow that runs on a regular basis, or in which you can designate in any number of ways. For example, you can choose when you wish the flow to start, what time you wish the flow to run. For example, we say we want it to run at 7 AM. You can designate how often you want it to run, so once per minute, second, hour, day, and more. Commonly, we would run once per day, but you can also add in any number of options. For example, once every 10 days, or for example, if you go for a specific week, you can even choose the exact days you want it to run on. So we don't want this flow to run on Saturday and Sunday, for example. And then finally, we have the instant cloud flow. An instant cloud flow is triggered manually either by the user or another flow or process, so for example, a Canvas app. Most commonly, we will use manually trigger a flow. This is the one that a user will use to trigger the flow, or a parent flow can use. So we will be using this for the rest of our video. You can create a name for it like so as test instant flow and then hit create. This will bring you into the flow editing screen. You can see already we have our manually triggered flow added here, where you can add inputs and more. This is something we'll cover in the next advanced video. You can also see up top, you can rename your flow. So we could name it test instant instead. And then next is where you get to the meat of adding new steps. Clicking new step brings up this screen, showing you a list of all of the various connectors available for flow, as well as all of the actions that are related to these connections. Clicking this drop-down shows the full list of every type of data source that my flow can connect to. For this example, we will be connecting to Microsoft Dataverse. Selecting a connector from this list brings up the full list of actions that you can use related to this connection. For example, adding a new row, deleting a row, listing rows, getting rows by ID. We'll be listing rows to begin with. First up, we will open up this drop-down, and you can see a full list of every Dataverse table that our connection is connected to. We'll be bringing up the accounts table. You can also search for a specific one using the search bar. We will see advanced options open here, allowing you to filter your rows or see a specific number of rows to be listed, or even a number of rows to be skipped first. We'll be covering how to enter, fetch XML, and filter rows in the next video as well as how to create a new connection, allowing you to designate where your data source will be coming from. Alternatively, you can also rename your flow like this. So we want to name it list accounts. This is helpful just for quality of life, for if someone else wishes to return to the flow later. You don't need to just use the new step button to create a new action. You can also click the plus icon in between two existing actions, like so, and click add an action there, at which point we can see we would like to add in a new flow action of initializing a variable. We will call this test storage, and we will set this to a string. And then in the next step, we can set variable, which allows us to take any piece of information from our from our list rows action and store it inside the variable we initialized earlier. Next, you can see the list of dynamic content. This shows you a full list of fields and data that we can pull out of any previous source. So for example, in here, we can see the list of all of the columns stored in the accounts table in our database table. We can search, you can scroll through any number of items in here, or specifically you could search for a direct field, for example, phone number. We can see main phone. Selecting that has automatically put our action inside of an apply to each, which means that this will run through for every row in our accounts. So this would run countless times depending on how many rows of data you have in this table. We can manage that by a filter, as mentioned previously, and as we'll cover in detail in the next episode. Then you can continue adding more actions, allowing you to use dynamic content that you set earlier. For example, if I was to send an email, I can choose to send it to myself, specify the subject as test email, and then in the body, you can see we have our variable of test storage, like so. That allows you, this means that this email will send for every account in our table, and I will receive an email telling me the phone number of each account. Next, we can save this flow. We will see a brief warning telling us that we should filter our rows, as it is always best practice to try and reduce, so make sure you don't get every single row. We can close this. Then from here, you have two options for how you wish to run your flow. You can either click test here and manually run your flow, or automatically if there are previous flow runs available. However, you can also jump back out into here and click run, which will allow you to run your flow using the run flow button. Alternatively, you can also from this screen add new owners to the flow. For example, if you have someone else in the company you wish to edit this flow to, type their name or email into here and you can create them as a co-owner and editor of the flow. If you are no longer needing a flow, you can turn it off, which means that it will no longer run even if it is an automated or scheduled flow. And if you're completely done with it, you can always delete it. If you wish to continue editing, select the edit button here, which brings you back to the screen mentioned earlier. Thank you, and I hope this video has been informative.